Hello, this is my updated PDF, and it's got 37 pages. You could download it right here. Here's all the other older versions, and let me get to this. The three irreducible statements. What was it? Aporetos and ananke. Aporetos ananke and ananke aporetos. The summation, what am I saying? The summit of divine holism ineffably, absolutely, necessarily explains each other in each other without in themselves explaining itself in itself. By that I mean, ineffable is ineffable, or ananke is ananke, or necessity is necessitated, or absolute is absoluted, or without using those kinds of definitions is, well, in themselves explain itself in itself is themselves in each other's selves, is ineffable, absolute, necessary, in a tripartite dialectic whereby tension between two, as in, like, if you try to explain this, wait, let's use the long parts of the triangle. It's trying to explain this tension is between this and this, leads to a third, that is itself one of two different twos. So this is in itself two different twos, as in this part connected to this and this, of two different twos in whole in the divine, not as a part in itself, is itself. So ineffable with absolute is necessity, ineffable with necessity is absolute, absolute with necessity is ineffable. And this is the reciprocal symbol, I think, and well, I know that just using those arrows to convey that order is not even important in trying to explain the three irreducible statements, because it's beyond order and it's already at the summits of divine holism. This is holos and theos, but anyways, let me get to the PDF itself. And you guys seen this before. I explained this in previous videos. Maybe I explained this this should be semi self-explanatory, but it's also not. I don't know what I'm saying about that. Well, let me skip ahead. Alright, Firefox does that. Let me just scroll down slowly. Keep this part in mind. I already covered these and this and that. I'm only covering the newer parts of the PDF, and here it is. And here it is. Well, it's kind of hard to tell what you're looking at, so let me just zoom out a little bit and zoom back in like that. Okay, so measure magnitudinal arithmetic operations is kind of conveyed right here, despite it's in a previous page. And I put a grid on here because it's to convey whole number used to be whole numbers come after measured magnitudinal stuff, so it's an abstracted version. I didn't put that here because it's irrelevant, because measured stuff is it's been kind of briefly pointed at in a previous video with this part, the cyclical theory thing, which is not really it's not a unique idea, so to speak. But the way I put it like this is still important because people arrive to incommensurable magnitude through magnitude that is presumably commensurate at this point. In relation to something that's incommensurate, so it is knowably incommensurable magnitude through magnitude. Well, anyways, ratio magnitudes unit, and this is where number comes from. So magnitude comes way before its manifestation as natural number or rational numbers, as in like fractions. So ratio is not a fraction, and that's where many people get things wrong. And I know some parts of this book uses more fractions than ratios, but it's really, some parts of this is not really actually about the measured incommensurable magnitudes, but rather the abstracted measure of the incommensurable magnitude, but rather the proportion of the incommensurable magnitude. Anyways, let me get back. This is like 27 megabytes or something, so anyways, I try to convey something else that's not dealing with this. Since this part is a diameter, this is the chord from that diameter. So by the 5 to the power of -1 diameter is in relation to the smaller circle to the larger circle, and I'm using this smaller circle that's centered to the diameter. So 5 to the power -1, or 1/5, is right here. This whole diameter is 5 to the power -1. Alright, you got that? Well, anyways, before I get to all the more complicated stuff, I wanted to show you again this part, which yeah, this part is if this is 2, then this is square root of 2 to the times 5 to the power negative 1 times 2, because this is the what was it? The words are not coming out of my mouth. Since this is the ratio, radius of this smaller, well, relative to this, but you gotta think of this when you think of this. So 2, and this is square root of 2, what, 2 square root of 2 to the power 2 square root of 2 times 5 to the power of negative 1 as the diameter here. But if you have this as 1, this is 1 over square root of 2, and this is with the diameter of 5 to the power negative 1. So this 2-ness or whatever is, it could have been any like proportion really. These values will all change relative to the size, but what I'm trying to get to is that square root of 2 and phi based systems kind of meet at a certain point, quite literally in the next page over here. But before I get too ahead of myself, try to think of this triangle over here. Okay, so this triangle over here, and using this to this is right there, and it gets smaller relative to 1, like that, with a certain magnitude or angle, and then repeat it again and again, and at this point you gotta think of a 5 to the power negative infinite which it's not technically a number, but it's an expression of something that's trying to convey how this the perpendicular to the diameter, which diameter comes before the perpendicular in this case, relative to the second smaller diameter or radius of the other circle, that's for this purpose is centered in the bigger circle. As this part reaches to 0, basically in unmanifesting its area centered to the diameter, it becomes the triangle with 0 area becomes equal to the diameter of the circle that it's on, which is the point of this, and the off-center transcendental pi perpendicular chord length is less than, not equal to, diameter length, which, explaining this, need to look at this relative to this. But to look at this, which I didn't put labels or values on here on purpose, because much of it has already been done previously, indirectly. Where is it? Come on, load. Over here, later, in backwards and forward squaring of square root of pi to the power negative 1. And you could see here the angles and all this, which is tied to another part of the diagrams that I made previously. This one over here, which the values of this one, if you look closely, has been explained before, but also going to be expressed, or it has been expressed through these two images, but not in the same way, even though they use the same values basically as this. So what I'm getting at is this value is pi over 4, I think, yeah, and this is the lesser part and the greater part. I get this all intuitively, and explaining this is kind of messed up to me, and because nothing is really straightforward in these things, and that's the reason why, let me go out, I have this here, which kind of does some of the explaining for me. Where is it? Oops. In showing the value, you could see in that side, but anyways, I could just do it again. So to just simply test the hypothesis that the transcendental pi value has anything to do with the circle, it has to arrive to the square root of 2 proportion somehow. Well, in this case, this would be 1 over square root of 2. But it doesn't, and I could prove that. Wait. In just simply adding this equation value in, which already gives me pi over 4. Okay, so get that there. Which will go like that. That. And that. Which, why am I doing this? Is to simply show you what I was constructing in my own book, basically. If you don't trust that point that I just added, I could just redo it, but it's just the same. Okay. I'm flipping the reflectable line, yeah. Well, so this and this, gonna get rid of this line right here if I can. Oh, there it is. Okay. So the lengths are not the same, which means transcendental pi value that this GeoGebra program provides to like up to 40 points, I mean decimals back. So midpoint between these two. You see this? You see the discrepancy? Well, there's the proof, basically. And I could just zoom way in, and there you go. It's off centered. So transcendental pi has nothing to do with, you hear me? It has nothing to do with the square root of 2, geometrically speaking. There's how off it is from the center. Alright. Which, again, is good to get back to this. Which this whole chord here is not even, well, it is perpendicular to the diameter, but it's not actually at the center of that diameter. The midpoint between these two chords, because this and this is not the same. If you don't get it by now, I don't know what to say, because you're just stupid, really. That's all there is to it. If you don't get it, you gotta think it for yourself and try to understand things for yourself. I tried to convey it here, but it's a super big mess over here. I understand if you guys don't get it when I already got it the first time, but I really did it enough and explain why the relation of this has to do with this, which means this, the diameter 1 to 5 to the power negative infinity over to triangle height on circle diameter as perpendicular base chord of 1. And using 4 over square root of 5 to the power negative 1, like 4 square root of 5 to the power negative 1, or 4 over 5 square root of 5. But I don't like that over thing, because it could be simplified in putting everything on one side of the divisor, I guess. This part, I forgot what it's called. Certainly someone would get mad at me if he's watching, that is. Anyways, some of this is kind of confusing to some, but you gotta really try to understand many of these things for yourself before you judgmentally condemn me, which nobody really that has any like actual good criticisms besides irrelevant minutia or mistakes of grammar. I don't think anyone has refuted me on on these things. And did I show you guys this? No, I don't think I did. Well, this part of the video is more metaphysical, I guess, and yeah, this is my version of Ken Witter's water diagram, and there's a reason why I drew it like this, because some things weren't really working out the way that it should work out, at least on two-dimensional planes of a three-dimensional object. But anyways, the center of this and this has an angle of almost 120 degrees, so that's a part that Ken doesn't know about when he made this diagram. So I don't know if it's gonna be completed or perfected, as Ken claims that he would perfect his thing. But yeah, check out his water article about this if you want more context. But I figured out how he made his diagrams. I made some fudge factor stuff over here because none of it really aligned that well if you just look carefully. But it complements Ken's stuff, I'll say, even though it's not a replacement for Ken's stuff. And this part is new. I basically put together whatever Ken has said in these few years about various general wisdom stuff or applicable life lessons, I should say, yeah, about people and like what things you should be aware of, like wisdom, discernment, situational awareness, redundancy, and diversification, which is a more recent video, but I also like refine some of the stuff that he has spoken in other times in relation to other ideas he had in the past. So this is the 5 armors or attributes of human persona, I guess. Well, wisdom, intelligence, charisma, beauty, strength. You could just see this for yourself. Ken talked about the 4 types of personalities and 6 types of intellects. So I placed it like this for a reason. It fits well-ish enough. Well, anyways, I made some updates in this page. Some of them is really typos, like I had like possessing with 1 S over here instead of 2, but it's minor changes, not much changed. This I didn't change as much, I think, as the last time. I think it's the same. These are all expressions, okay? It's not to be taken too literally. but this, why is it off-centered like this, is because this is divided, it's trying to convey that it's a positive value, so to speak, in an integer sense, though infinity is not a number, and yada yada, but it's a expression that I use to convey certain ideas that doesn't really have a good place to be fit quite well in a regular world. But I just have the three reducible statements in this page, and here's my old logo. Well, not old logo, but new but old logo. And I guess that's it for that. I'm not sure if I'm going to add all the necessary text to convey all the complexities and interwoven connections between all the graphical images in this PDF. It's not gonna show it, isn't it? Anyways, if you enjoyed, I don't know what should I do after this, because I could ask for money, I'd say donations, but at the same time nobody donates to me anyways, because nobody knows my Monero address, even though I had it up in one of these older PDFs and images. Where was it? I think I added it in the second or third one. Yeah, if you have no idea, it's okay, because you don't need to give me anything really, because I'm doing fine for now. Well, where is it? I guess it's... Yeah, I don't check my own stuff because I already made my own stuff. You kind of get what I'm saying? Well, yeah, that's the old ones. Where is it? Did I add it here? Yeah, I added it in this one, this older image that I made. It's right there. Darn it. Should not do that. I think I've said too much or showed too much. I don't know. I can't do that, can I? Well, this thing is a huge image, so I don't want to try to like show this by itself, because it's a mess, and I did that before and whatever. But anyways, you don't need to donate. Please don't donate if you find that offensive or whatever. Whatever floats your boat. And there's some other I should say that there's some other concepts that I purposely never conveyed, as to like how I made the spiral thing, the Archimedean spiral, without even using the formula, the polar formula that most people use to generate the Archimedean spiral. What was it called? I have it on the book. The Samos, the Conon of Samos's polar equation, which Archimedes used to square the circle, but he didn't know the actual angles and all that, and he presumed the fallacy of trying to use an incommensurate proportionality, a commensurate one to measure an incommensurate one, when in reality, one should use an incommensurate proportionality to measure another incommensurate proportionality. And by that I meant that phi base ratios and all that comes first, and at a certain relation there's a relationship between phi base proportions to the square root of 2, which I've already explained. And through the square root of 2 relation, one could also come to realize that its connections to the circle but you cannot just come to assume that the square root of 2 relationship to the circle has anything to do with transcendental pi, because that measured value that it uses never actually touches the center part as this does, or it doesn't have the same equal chords, and doesn't stay in the center as this does, but it's off-centered, and so the chord is less than the diameter length. I'm just repeating myself now basically by trying to convey these things in different ways. I don't know, I guess I'm done. I'm prattling along and getting tired. If you guys got like any other questions, you guys got my email, do you? Which if you don't, I could just show it to you again, which is this Anarchlogos at protonmail.ch. And I don't know what else to say. I guess that's it. Thanks for watching and see you guys later.